With the Tour de France on the horizon, now is a good time to be on your best form, and Team Columbia High Road has proved that they are primed for July. The American-based team has dominated this past week at the Tour de Suisse, with 5 different riders accounting for 6 stage wins out of a possible 8. The overall situation has Tadej Valjevich in the yellow jersey as race leader, but with today's 39-kilometre time trial, it's far from over, as the fast specialist in the world, Fabian Cancellara, is breathing just 4 seconds down his neck. The race of truth decides this year's winner of the 2009 Tour de Suisse, next on Versus. Yes, it's less than 2 weeks to the start of the Tour de France, and today final preparations conclude here with the end of the Tour of Switzerland. I'm Phil Liggett, and with me is Paul Sherwin, and we're privileged to be on the finish line today of the final day's time trial of the Tour de Suisse right here in Bern. Paul, it's been a very interesting week. There we have a Slovenian, Tadej Valjevich, taking the yellow jersey into the final day stage. But what a week for Team Columbia High Road.
Team Columbia High Road have not been able to do a thing wrong in this bike race, whether it's been taking out the sprints with Mark Cavendish or being aggressive on the big mountain stages. They have been omnipresent, and I think that bodes well for their Tour de France.
Well, last weekend we did show you the opening 2 stages, in which gave the race lead to Fabian Cancellara. He won the opening time trial, and quite frankly the overall standings haven't altered too much since that opening time trial. But now we'll look back at the highlights to see how the week has gone. We'll pick up the action on stage 3 as we race towards Lumino, 123 miles on these most beautiful roads of Switzerland.
Well, a 4-man breakaway, Phil, dominating the early part of the race, and they built up a fairly big lead. With 48 kilometres to go, they were just inside of 3 minutes ahead of the main field, led there in the breakaway by Enrico Gasparotto.
He was best placed to take the yellow jersey because he's only just less than 3/4 of a minute behind the overall leader, Cancellara. The reaction was swift, the field all coming together, although the breakaway contained yellow jersey was coming back. A minute 8 was the gap, but at 4 kilometres to go, the Team Columbia High Road were taking their man, the Manx missile Mark Cavendish, towards the finish.
Pretty much in control, but with 3 kilometres to go, Ryder Hagedal said, well, you guys, if you want to win this sprint, you're going to have to pull back this breakaway of mine. And he got himself around about 15 seconds off the front end of the main field, but with 2 kilometres to go, it was all back together, and it was pretty much all the yellow jersey train of Team Columbia High Road at the front.
The previous day, Mark Cavendish has lost 13 minutes, but it hadn't stopped Bernard Eisel getting the stage 2 of this event. But now they had their main sprinter heading towards the finishing line. There were other riders trying to break up the party, attack here from Quick-Step, but they were quickly onto them.
Well, they never rattled Team Columbia coming into the final corner. George Hincapie was in first position, and right on his wheel was the man from the Isle of Man.
Well, you're wrong to go to the front and lead out Mark Cavendish to the line, and this is proof of that. As Thor Hushoff tried to steal the stage for Sabello, Mark Cavendish came off his wheel with traditional sprint finish mode here. As he put it into top gear, Oscar Freire tried to follow, but none were gaining ground. Mark Cavendish gave Team Columbia High Road their 2nd win in as many days, the first for him. He beat Oscar Freire and Thor Hushoff.
Well, there was no major change at the top end of the overall classification, though, because everybody finished in the same time as the riders moved on to stage 4.
This took us through to Stafford now in Switzerland, 121 miles, another glorious day. Undulations, yes, mountains, no, as the riders continued. There was a break with Andy Schleck, and Valjevich was quick to mark them out of it. And so as we catch up with the action here now, we are seeing the field more or less in the front coming together. An attack by Columbia High Road's Tony Martin, wearing the pink jersey as leader of the King of the Mountains.
Yes, but at the front end of the main field, there was always Andy Schleck or Frank Schleck keeping the pace nice and high. But on the running down towards the finish line with less than 30 kilometres to go, another serious break formed at the front with Peter Velits of Milram, probably the most dangerous rider.
Riders now anxious to work together here as the bunch themselves with the yellow jersey sitting down there now as they look towards bringing back this group. But they were losing 2 minutes and 51 seconds. Fabian Cancellara was now very much on the defensive, 9 kilometres out from the line.
He probably felt very comfortable having his own teammate in that leading group, Andy Schleck, but on the charge to the line, you could see everybody was trying to break free. At 3 kilometres to go, this leading pack of riders had 1 minute and 20 seconds over the yellow jersey group of Cancellara.
Valjevec and Iglinski of Astana trying to get away from the field here as they raced into the final kilometre though. Peter Belitz himself tried to win, but on the line it was a very tight finish, and in fact it was a great victory indeed by Matti Breschel, and the unbelievably Breschel now taking the interest and swinging it across the Saxo back. So Cancellara out of yellow, but at least they got the day's win for.
Well, the team got the victory, and what a gap to try and squeeze through, but what was more important was what was going to be the gap over the main field. There is the winning margin, but on the line it was 1 minute and 1 second back to the peloton, so Fabian Cancellara had lost his overall lead despite the fact that his team and Matti Breschel had got the stage victory.
The third place finisher on the day in that breakaway, Tadej Valjevec from Slovenia, pulling on the race leaders' yellow jerseys. We move on now to stage number 5 here. This was a ride of 125.5 miles. This was the second longest stage of the week.
Well, this is one of the smaller teams out on the breakaway. This is Hungerbühler, and he was originally in a group of 5 riders. He built up a maximum lead, and the main field were not too concerned about his whereabouts. Later on, he was joined by another group of riders, and then it started to look quite serious at 43 kilometres to go. They still had 1 minute's advantage over the group containing the yellow jersey.
That put 5 men up front, and Hungerberger of the Vraalberger team, one of the local teams here, now had company. At 34 kilometres to go though, Margus Burkhardt was all, and Bernhard Schroeder were looking for the action. Team Milram here were conducting the chase at the back, and the gap to the yellow jersey was coming down quickly. Just 32 seconds on the ride in. Then to the last 10 kilometres to go, Rein Taramai of Cofidis made his move on the climb.
Well, he looked very serious, but looking over his shoulder, he could see the shadow of the main field starting to pull him back into the fold.
This is Tony Martin, still wearing the pink jersey as leader of the King of the Mountains here, being trailed by the new race leader, Tadej Valjevec. The peloton, though, were closing in fast.
Well, these were all the heads of state. Andres Kloden was in there for Team Astana, but also still riding very close to the front end of the main field was Fabian Cancellara.
But as they approached the finish, Michael Alvassini, heading for his first win of the year, showed a pair of wheels nobody could match. And Team Columbia Hyro were back on the winner's rostrum. And it was beginning to look amazing. 2 teams were dominating this year's Tour de Suisse, and Michael Alvassini getting the win. And in fact, just beating there Fabian Cancellara, which is unusual in him to do so well in a sprint finish.
Well, Alvassini getting the win ahead of Fabian Cancellara and Damiano Cunego in 3rd place. But I think this man, Phil, the man who leads the race, Valjevec, he must have been concerned at this point about the move of the overall classification of Fabian Cancellara, eating away at the time bonuses.
Well, there's been a lot of criticism of the Tour de Suisse not hilly enough this year, allowing riders like Cancellara to stay in touch, and there he was, 14 seconds off in 3rd place from Valjevec, same time as Olivier Zug. Tony Martin was in 6th at 54 seconds. Maxime Montfort, another Columbia High Road, 7th, and the top 10 completed by René Taramay. Andy Schleck was 13th, Christian van der Velde 118th in his first race in his comeback period. So that's the situation thus far. We'll take a break now, and when we come back we'll continue with our highlights from 6 to 8, and then we have the time trial live. See you in just a moment. Welcome back. We're in Bern today for the conclusion of the Tour of Switzerland. That's coming up shortly with the individual time trial. We're talking now about how the riders have fared all week. In yellow is Tadej Valjevec as we now pick up the action as we join stage number 6 here. It's a flattish stage, taking the rise to Bad Zurzach, and it's 110 miles. A chance for the sprinters? Maybe, but first of all, Paul, they have to deal with Hollenstein.
Hollenstein riding for a very small Austrian team, but at 50 kilometres to go, he had a lead of over 5 minutes on the yellow jersey group, but the yellow jersey group got themselves very organised with a lot of work done by Columbia High Road, and at 30 kilometres to go it was down to 2 minutes. At 18 kilometres to go it was virtually all over.
Horrible sight. You look over your shoulder, you see the whole field of the Tour de Suisse coming at you. So that was the end of the long breakaway by Hollenstein, who rides here for Vorarlberg, which is one of the small teams in this region. And then at 18 kilometres to go, the field are very much all together. Chance for the sprinters to reshuffle as they continued those small attacks did try to develop, but they were onto it. 7 kilometres out, familiar pattern now. Team Columbia High Road taking control.
Taking control, but with 4 kilometres to go, Team Milram were trying to get into the mix and creating a little bit of confusion. Inside of 2 kilometres to go, it was Cervelo Test Team trying to break the stranglehold of the man from the Isle of Man and get their man Thor Hushoff to the line in first place.
But once you get to that 1 kilometre to go, Banner, the Max missile with a perfect lead out here. George Hincapie trying to get him up towards the line, and again it was Thor Hushoff trying to break in on the sprinter's own private domain. But I'm afraid for Mark Cavendish, there's only one winner as he comes clear now for Columbia High Road, with Oscar Freire again finishing just behind him. Amazingly, Paul, that was win number 4 of the week for Team Columbia High Road.
Completely and utterly dominant, but what a team, because everybody works for each other. You can see the team spirit here, and as Mark Cavendish looks under his arms there, he knows that this is going to be win number 2 at the Tour of Switzerland, and I think it takes it to win number 13 of the season.
Yes, indeed, which put Mark Cavendish top of the winners list for 2009 thus far, after he beat Oscar Freire and Francesco Gavazzi of Team Lamprey, forcing just about a smile, the man from the Isle of Man. Certainly a big smile here from Tadej Valjevic, who continues to keep his lead, but really overall far from being a free man, I must say. Onwards then to stage number 7 now, as we say, the beauty of Switzerland continues. Onwards from Bad Zurzach to Euro Park, 126.8 miles, the longest of the Swiss race this year.
A little bit of nasty weather at the finish, and with a mountaintop finish, everybody expected the overall classification to change dramatically. With 48 kilometres to go, there was a 4-man breakaway at the front, but the danger in the bad weather at the back saw this man, Tony Martin, go down in a very nasty crash. Have a look at this again.
Yes, not the happiest of conditions. The light rain here causing slick on the roads, and Martin there in his Pink Leaders King of the Mountains jersey having to be paced back here by a healthy group of Team Columbia riders, and quickly gets back into the fray.
But it was the final climb of the day with 14 kilometres of ascension up to Velets of Team Milram, but no real major change in the overall classification, with still Tadej Valjevic on the top with the yellow jersey. But that led the riders to the next big mountain top finish on stage 8, Phil, the one that I think everybody feared, from Le Sentier to the ski resort of Crans-Montana.
This was yesterday, and we had the privilege of watching this on Swiss television yesterday, and what a great battle it was, as early on there was a breakaway here, riders trying to stay away. Marcel Weiss there in the black for Cervelo. This is the Finnish champion here, who's trying to get clear, Jussi Veikkonen. They were just ahead of the peloton in the end. At one stage the breakaway did have 6 minutes, but then all of the big hitters heading towards the climb of Crans-Montana, being paced here by Andy Schleck, and this was an attack by Steve Molabito, softening them up perhaps for Andreas Kloden.
Team Astana had a plan on this final climb of the day. They wanted to try and soften it up to see if they could break the stranglehold of Team Saxo Bank. Looking over his shoulders, Steve Moravita had got himself an 18-second advantage over the yellow jersey group, but the group of the yellow jersey wasn't being controlled by AG2R, Phil. It was being controlled by Team Saxo Bank of Fabian Cancellara.
Because the plan here, if they could just keep Fabian Cancellara alongside the race leader, then advantage would swing to him in today's time trial. Roman Kreuziger trying again here. He had claimed a 3-second time bonus along the way, so he was closing in as well. Little helping hand there for Andy Schleck from Cancellara. Schleck had been brilliant, but was now getting tired.
Well, Team Saxo Bank didn't panic at all. They kept the control at the front end of the main field, and the reason to do that was to stop their man Fabian Cancellara being put into the situation where he had to respond to these accelerations of the climbers, and they did a great job. And with 10 kilometres to go, the attacks were still coming thick and fast, but Fabian Cancellara was still in the group.
And Andy Schleck was still doing his best to keep him there too, knowing that they could. There's a big chance in today's time trial. He'll start towards the end of the field. The yellow jersey, Tadej did try to get away from the field, so too did all of the others, because they were desperate to gain seconds that could save them today when they come up against the train of Cancellara. At 5 kilometres remaining now, the peloton had split, but all of the big men were at the front.
For somehow, man from Luxembourg, Frank Schleck, had come back into this race, got himself a little bit more power to keep himself up the front with his teammate Fabian Cancellara. But the attacks again coming from Team Columbia High Road. Again, Kim Kirchen trying to get himself off the front end of the main field, inside around about a kilometre to go to the finish. He was pulled back into the fold, and then his teammate Tony Martin went straight over the top.
Just 500 metres from the finish, Tony Martin, the winner of the King of the Mountains at this stage, crosses the line in first place. His first road race win. He's always good at the time trials, and this was a big result. Hugged here by Kim Kirken, who set it up. An unbelievable 6-stage wins too for Team Columbia High Road. Damiano Cunego, is he coming back to form for the Tour de France? In second, Cancellara stealing a bonus in third. So as we head towards the time trial, Valjevec 4 seconds over Cancellara, 28 over last year's winner Kreuziger, 39 as we look further down the list. Cunego also inside a minute. Carpet's a former winner at 61 seconds. Kirken in 8th. This is a veritable rejoicing now for Team Columbia High Road, who've won 6 out of 8 stages. The other 2, by the way, have been won by Saxo Bank. Who's going to win the time trial? Fabien Cancellara will tell you, along with Switzerland. He hopes to. We'll see you in just a moment. We're live. Well, welcome back. Well, we've told you the story so far. Today, it's D-Day for both Tadej Valjevec and, of course, Fabien Cancellara, because he lives near the finishing line here in Bern. He's warming up now for his time trial. And I suspect, Paul, these are very anxious moments now for his wife, Stephanie, and his young family. Well, let's see what he's facing.
Well, I tell you what, he's facing up to a very undulating course. Not one, I think, that will go against his talents. And his big advantage, Phil, is he knows this road. These are his training roads. He actually goes through, or all of the riders actually go through the start-finish line after around about 19 kilometres, then go out for a second lap. And I think that's when we'll start to see the big time gaps appear. But it's always difficult when you're starting this time trial with a 4-second deficit in second place.
So that's the course, and that's the profile. Of course, the big name still to go. Currently, though, it's Thomas Dekker who is leading with 47.41 from Silence Lotto. Marcus Berghardt of Team High Road is second. Sylvain Chabanel sits third. So we're looking now at the start area. This is Andreas Kloden, who has got himself into the start house here and looking extremely confident. He's shown good flashes, Paul, and I really think now he is going to be on great form for the Tour de France.
It's going to be a massive challenge. These last 10 riders, Phil, in the overall standings. I think it could be any which way you want to if you threw the dice on the floor. Andreas Kloden is a very good individual time trialist, and yes, I think he has ridden exceptionally well this last week. Looking forward to the Tour de France.
Well, as he's about to make his start, where we're commentating from is the finish line, which is not very far away, about 100 yards or so. George Hincapie has just flashed in. A good time from George, 48.57. At the moment, he sits in 16th place. No change in the order I've just given you, as the rider, Andreas Kloden, is now off the ramp.
Yes, that leads just 4 riders to start, Phil. Tony Martin, last year's winner, Roman Kreuziger, Fabien Cancellara, the massive favourite here this afternoon, and Tadej Valjevec, who will start last at 37 minutes past the hour here in Bern.
This is Maxime Montfort. What a week. I can't get over the week that Team Columbia hired.
Watch out.
This is to catch the cat. Oh no, he's missed it. But at least he's learned to run pretty quickly. That was lucky.
And at least it wasn't a black cat.
Okay. So he's going to make it safely to the finish. Maxime Montfort's also played his part on Team Columbia High Road this week. It's really an amazing tour in many ways, Paul. 2 teams, and that's all, have won stages, and 6 of them have gone to Columbia High Road and 2 to Saxo Bank.
Yeah, but I think what it makes it is very complicated for the team management, Phil, now moving forward from the Dauphiné, which we were at last week, and the Tour of Switzerland, for the teams to pick the final 9 riders. It's a very complicated situation with Team Columbia High Road and, of course, with Team Saxo Bank as well, and it's a tough job for the managers over the next 15 days.
And I must say, Thomas Dekker, who was a superstar in his youth and has been rather silent since he's joined Silence Lotto, has come in with the best time, and what a time to choose to find the form, because he was the fastest rider so far at all checks at 10.5 kilometres. He did that in 12 minutes and 27 seconds. At 30 kilometres, he was there in 36.19. At the finish, he's the best time at 47.41. But he really has not been a happy lad at all since he walked out on Rabobank last year. But I think now, if he's going to produce rides like that, Cadel Evans will want him on the squad.
He certainly will, I think, and it's good to see that he's finally got himself a little bit of form back. A fairly technical course. Another rider from Team Columbia High Road, and this is Tony Martin, who's been exceptional this week. He's won 2 stages here at the Tour of Switzerland, one in the early prologue, and of course here he's got himself his first win at the top of a mountain.
What a confidence too. It's born from a team on top of its form, on top of the world right now. When Martin jumped away a couple of days ago to win, he just did it any which way he liked at the top of Crans-Montana yesterday. This is Olivier Zag, who's a local boy here and ridden and risen to the occasion. He's fighting a podium position. He's been in it for half the week. He's dropped away a little bit now. but for liquid gas, we'll see. He's now paving his selection as well for the Tour de France.
Just looking at the course, it's a magnificent course, I think, for Fabian Cancellara. And, of course, these are his training roads. We, in fact, probably don't go very far away from his front door. So he will be hyper-motivated here, racing in front of the home crowd and knowing that all he's looking for is 4 simple seconds on Tadej Valjavec to try and win the Tour of Switzerland.
So that's out on course, Tony Martin, and this is Maxime Montfort. The big hitters are about to start. One man warming up is Roman Kreuziger, who sits in a podium position. Can he make it the top one? See you in a moment. Welcome back to the final stage, the time trial of this year's Tour de Suisse. Now, before we get back to the action, let's take a look at something Specialized Bikes is doing as they continue now to search out ways to improve performance out on the road. Here's more on the bike fitting process with Bob Roll.
I'm here with Nick Sims of Specialized, and we understand that you guys had a pretty extensive fit with the Saxo Bank team riders. Tell us a little bit about that and what you guys have found out.
Yeah, we went to Mallorca. The team asked us specifically to come over and do a fit on all their riders, on every bike, their road bikes and their time trial bikes. We worked with Cancellara, and then he went the first day and got us the jersey and the win, so that was good. So word is out that the fit system works. The big thing about BG Fit is it's available to anyone on the street. They can go into any Specialized dealer that's been trained up. We've worked heavily with Andy Pruitt from the Boulder Center for Sports Medicine to develop this program. It's something that's available for people on the street to the pros here. We look at getting the bike to fit the rider, and we look at all the contact points with the rider and the bike, whether it's the handlebars, the seats, the shoes, the footbeds, and everything like that. So it's a fully customizable program.
Well, all the best bikes, and these are the places to see the best bikes, Paul, in a time trial, aren't they?
Certainly, but what's really important is the position on the bike, and a lot of these riders, especially the riders at the top end of the echelons, try and spend a lot of time in the winter months getting that position streamlined as possible, because you've got to get a combination of a great aerodynamic bike and a great aerodynamic body. Now, this is the third man from the end to start, Roman Kreuziger, the winner of this event last year, and as you said, Phil, looking to try and improve on his podium position, which is currently third overall.
Came to form a bit earlier this year. He won the Tour de Suisse last year, and this year he's won the Tour of Romandy, which is the other top Swiss event. Clearly likes being in this part of the world. He is from the Czech Republic, by the way, as he now makes his move. Wait for the cheers for the next man to go. They're going now at 2-minute intervals. We keep getting glimpses there of Maxime Montfort. Well, he's now 16 minutes into his attempt.
Well, although he's from the Czech Republic, he feels very much as at home in Italy. Does Roman Kreuziger, and speaks fluent Italian.
Well, he's the only Czech rider ever to have won this race, by the way, while Fabian Cancellara is trying to get out to win it for the first time since Alex Zuller won it for Switzerland back in 2002. This is Vladimir Karpitz, who's the last Russian rider to win this event. He did that 2 years ago.
Most of that was the foundations laid in the individual time trial. He rode a great time trial on that occasion. You get a chance to see the study of his position here. His hands right in the middle of the handlebars. The helmet is made to try and get into as close as possible to the back there to make the front end of the rider's body very aerodynamic.
145 riders taking the start in the time trial today. The vast majority are home and dry now, and the rain is threatening, but it is dry. And 15 riders have abandoned since the start, which is not a very big list of dropouts. But of course, I reckon if you give up in the Tour de Suisse, then your manager just crosses your name off the likelihood of riding the Tour de France. Here he is in his championship colours as national time trial champion. He's also, and we must not forget it, the Olympic champion, Paul. Fabian Cancellara.
Olympic champion, an Olympic medalist in the road race as well. A lot of pressure on this man's shoulders, because if anybody is racing on home ground today, it's Fabian Cancellara. You can see, as is the superstition in the big days of professional cycling, he hasn't had a shave this morning. A lot of riders believe that if you shave on the day of a big race, you take away a little bit of nervous energy, and he needs every last little bit here this afternoon.
Wait for the cheers. Look at that. The Swiss flags are flying now. Is he launching? He's looking for 4 seconds over the last man to go. If he gets it, then he wins the Tour of Switzerland, and that's huge. It's even bigger when you live just down the road and you can go on the bus for $1.50.
Well, you may well call Mark Cavendish the Manx missile, but this man, Phil, came out of that starting gate like a bullet, and that's rather interesting because not far away from where we're commentating is a circus, so he's really come out like a rocket.
Well, he come out that little dog leg on the course. Now he's swung onto the actual circuit itself. As he now settles in, it's 2 laps of the circuit. Now they've had a big gap in the start times to stop these top riders getting mingled with the other riders doing their time trial. We're back out on the course now
this is
with
Kim
the
Kirken,
Colombian high road champion of Luxembourg. Kirken also doing well. They're riding pretty well in the results too. They're still holding Marcus Berghout in second place overall. The second best team high road rider at the moment is George Hincapie in 16th.
Just check this man out. For a big, powerful man, he knows exactly what he's looking for here this afternoon. He's looking for a mere 4 seconds. But on this course, which is pretty much his home course, Phil, I don't think there are very many bike riders out there that would bet their bottom dollar against a victory in this final stage for Fabian Cancellara. Although he's taking it rather precariously around these corners, he knows that every second is going to count in this result. He is looking for 4 seconds on Tadej Blažević of Team AG2R.
Now the silence in the start house, the maillot jaune, a little bit of a flexing of the shoulders. This is Tadej Blažević, the last man to go of 145. It's a daunting task. He's chasing the fastest time trialist in the world. He starts 2 minutes back of him. He's got a good record in this race. In 2008 he wasn't so good, but in 2007 he's finished 9th. Before that he's finished 5th overall. And now he's got a real chance at becoming the first rider from the Slovenian Republic to win. He's off.
He's going to have a hard time though, Phil, I have to say, and I hate to be father of doom looking down on this man, but you know, his reputation has really been built in the big mountain passes, not in the individual time trial. That really is slightly his Achilles heel, and he's up against a man who is an incredible specialist. As we leap a little bit further up the road here to check here on Vladimir Karpitz, it really is a magnificent backdrop all around this course here this afternoon. As we look at the time at 10.5 kilometers of this man Vladimir Karpitz, and he's outside the top 15.
So as Vladimir Karpitz comes through at 10.5 kilometers, everybody is now on course, and we'll see now if the head-to-head between Switzerland and Slovenia materializes in a win for Slovenia. Or will it be Switzerland? We'll know soon. See you in a minute. Well, there's a little bit of anarchy out on the course at the moment too, because this now settling into his rhythm, a very familiar rhythm. Former world champion, current Olympic, a current national time trial champion, Fabian Cancellara just looks the part today.
He certainly does. There's been a little bit of rumblings in the press over the last couple of days, Phil, that the organisers here at the Tour of Switzerland have made this course easier so that Fabian Cancellara would have a chance of winning. But actually it's a little bit more complicated than that, because a lot of the professional teams have asked the Tour of Switzerland to make the race slightly easier over the last number of years, to allow them to use this race as preparation for the Tour de France, because in the past this really was a beast of a climb, and if you tried too hard here at the Tour of Switzerland, you used all of your ammunition going on towards the Tour de France.
Well, we're switching back to Kim Kirken here, Paul, but as you know, I was organiser of the Tour of Great Britain for 22 years. I was often accused of organising the course for the British riders. Then why didn't they win it for about 18 of those 22 years? I don't believe the organisers ever create a course for a cyclist, because for the start they never know that cyclist will be able to participate in their event. But when you look at the course, if it suits you, you go for it.
Well, that's completely true, because you know, it isn't really the organisers or even the race route that makes the racing sometimes. It's the riders themselves. They can make the race as hard or as easy as they want to.
That's absolutely true, and Kirken right now is refining his form this week and guaranteeing himself a place on the team in the Tour de France. As we swing down to the finish here of another man, I think, who's finding his legs now, Damiano Cunego. This is coming through here at the first check of the day, looking pretty smooth too.
Well, he's actually ridden very consistently as he goes through the 10.5 kilometer time check. The fastest time at that point, by the way, is still Thomas Dekker, a time of 12 minutes and 27 seconds. In fact, Damiano Cunego, he's lost himself a few seconds there. He's gone through in 16th place, but look at those for a set of pistons.
Oh dear. Well, we could borrow those for one of our club rides, I think, but there's no doubt this man is on a mission now. He knows his wife and young daughter Juliana are all at the finishing line, which is not far away from where he started. She was almost fated as a superstar herself today as she arrived here to watch Fabian.
Well, I'm not sure if you just noticed the way he went through that corner. I would say this man has practiced on this course a number of times, because he didn't move once from his trajectory going around that corner and didn't lose any of his momentum at all. It is a very difficult course to judge here, Phil, because as you said, we're starting around about 100 meters away from the finishing line, and the riders do a full lap of the course of around about 19 kilometers before going out and doing it a second time. Most of the course is pretty much large boulevards like this, and there are one or two nasty inclines, but no real hills in it, and I think will break up the rhythm of a big specialist like Fabian Cancellara.
And big is the operative word. Look at the size of this man. Hop Fabu. There's the first little piece of encouragement for him as he gets on with the job in hand. Remember, he's returning to form after he was sick on the eve of the Tour of California. He didn't stop him winning the prologue time trial there either. Now, this is probably Andreas Kloden we're looking at down there at the moment. He's started a few minutes ahead. 2, 4, 6 minutes ahead of Cancellara on the road.
He's coming up to the 10.5 kilometer time check, Phil, once he comes off this bridge, and that will give us an indication as to whether or not he is going to move up from 5th place that he started in the overall standing this morning into the possibility of a podium position too, because let's not forget, he's a very good individual time trialist. In fact, he's gone through there in 7th place, 12:32, but that's only 5 seconds off the fastest time recorded by Thomas Dekker.
He'll build on that again. It's most of the riders starting a little bit slower and building up, as it was in the case of Thor Hushovd, who for a while did hold the lead earlier today. He's down to 6th overall at the moment. As all the noise you can hear, by the way, are the Swiss banging on the advertising hoardings here every time they see a rider coming into view. They've no idea who it is, and they don't really care.
No, they don't. They are supporting every bike rider here this afternoon, Phil, who's coming through the finishing line, and they're getting right behind them. But it is going to be quite deafening, I think, when this man wearing number 61 comes through the start-finishing line for the first time, because they will go absolutely ballistic for their fabulous Fabian Cancellara.
Absolutely, wearing a 1 as leader, but this is a huge fillip for the Saxo Bank team as well, because now they know that their top time trialist is going to the Tour de France on form. Just a quick reminder, Thomas Dekker still leads, has been this way for a while now, 47.41. Marcus Berghardt a second behind, Sylvain Chabanel at 6 seconds. That's the situation. Believe me, it'll change. See you soon. Welcome back. Versus has a brand new motion comic available exclusively online at versus.com. Adventures from the epic cycle, featuring stories from the mind of Bob Roll and starring cycling's brightest stars. Take a peek right now and visit versus.com to see the latest episode, Battle Preparations, covering the drama of the Giro.
Astana soldiers appear unstoppable, but what lies beneath the surface of victory? Johan Brunel's army overflows with talent. Leipheimer, Armstrong, Contador. Blessing or curse? Divide and conquer, or fall divided?
Okay, well, don't forget to go to versus.com. That really is a fun watch. But right now we're looking down here on the man who is the king of the mountains, Tony Martin, as he continues to the check. 12:27. Very good, Tony. This is the best time here, and he's gone through at 12:22. He really is a superb young future hope in the time trial, and he's proved this week in the mountains as well.
Certainly is. 5 seconds faster than Thomas Dekker, but I don't know if you happen to notice the average speed there, Phil, in excess of 50 kilometers an hour, and he's now setting the benchmark for the men to start a little bit later on. This is Damiano Cunego. He started in 6th place in the overall standings this morning. He's going to have to do a very special individual time trial to keep himself up in the top 10, because over the years we've seen the time trial being his weakest point.
But he's 17 seconds behind Martin at that check we've just seen at 10.5 kilometers, slightly over 6 miles. Wish I could do 6 miles in 12 minutes, Paul, I'll tell you. But that's also a terrific ride by Tony Martin after he won so well at Crans-Montana. The other time trialist on the team was his country's national champion, Kim Curtin of Team Columbia High Road. He's 1:07 down overall. He held the lead in this race, you may remember, for a couple of days last year, but this year he's been ill since his crash, really, in California.
This is the hardest part of the course here. This is the climb that the riders will do on 2 occasions, bringing them from the valley road down below the city of Bern right up to the finish line above. And this is where, if you have a hard time, you can see yourself losing between 30 and 45 seconds. Kirken is looking very comfortable, very fluid, keeps getting out of the saddle, and the reason to do that is to get himself that little bit more power and keep the speed as high as possible.
We're only around the suburbs here of Bern, over the left shoulder, Kirken. You see the bridges that cross over the rivers here, they are, and we're never far away from where we're sitting, but Kim Kirken right now is just thinking to get to the top of this hill and get on with the job. Kreuzing down there now. He also is looking like an express train. He wants a podium, even if he can't get his win off Cancellara or Valjevec. It would be a good defence to get in 3rd place. Heading for the check here. Is he going to better Tony Martin? He may just be outside of it, but nonetheless he's running close. 12:22 the time to beat. He's just slipped away, but he could still go through there in 2nd best time, and his 3rd best time at 12:27.
But very close to the time of Thomas Dekker. That's an indication that this man has gone out very fast indeed. There's only 2 more riders, Phil, to get to that 10.5 kilometre time check. That next man will be Fabian Cancellara, and finally Tadej Valjevec. These riders, by the way, at the top end of the overall classification are starting at 2-minute intervals.
Yes, well, 39 seconds off the yellow jersey is Tony Martin. 28 seconds off the yellow jersey is Kreuziger. Now we'll wait to see what Valjevec does when he hits that point. But stand by to set the kite on fire when this man gets to 10 kilometres, because just looking at him, Paul, he's ripping the streets up.
He is hammering around all of these corners. He knows this course, Phil. I'm absolutely certain that he's been on training rides around here on a number of occasions. He's got to get to the 10.5 kilometre checkpoint in less than 12 minutes and 22 seconds, which is the fastest time set by Tony Martin.
Well, just to keep things going, Peter Bellich's just gone through in 16th place in 37.25. Best time still there is Thomas Dekker. And now it's not long. Once we make the left turn here, stand by. We're looking for 12:22 or better. If you're going to back it, go now, because I'm sure it'll be better. And we could do with the clock on screen, Paul.
We certainly could, but I tell you what, as he goes across the bridge,
that's the wrong bridge. No, we're a bit further yet.
He's looking exceptionally good here, and he's gone through there, and I see that's 11:54, 30 seconds faster almost than Tony Martin.
Stand by for the cheers on the finishing line here. Yes, listen to them. They've just announced it. Back on the finishing line. They're going berserk down here as he's gone through, the only rider inside 12 minutes. Who would want to be Tadej Valjevec right now?
Very difficult start of the day, just 4 seconds ahead of Fabian Cancellara in the overall standings, but that, I think, Phil, by the end of today is going to be closer to a minute mark. This man has gone through with the best time at 10.5 kilometres, as you said, inside of 12 minutes and 51 kilometres an hour.
Unbelievable. 11:58 is what Valjevec must do to that point to still be in yellow as he moves on to the next time check.
Just out of interest, by the way, the race organisers, when they planned out the route and the timings for this course this afternoon, worked on an average speed of 48.5. Well, we've knocked that into touch.
Sometimes it makes you wonder if we understand cycle racing, because on this modern day, with these bicycles and the streamlined helmets, these boys are always over 50 kilometres now, which is 31 and a bit miles an hour. Lonely life out there now as he goes for the shortest route, but they're spotting the red jersey of Switzerland and giving him a big cheer.
And you get a chance to see the machine that he's riding, extremely aerodynamic. All of the tubes are basically oval and they're shaped like the wings of an aeroplane. He's got a full disc wheel in the back that reduces all of the turbulence at the back end of the combination of the rider and the machine. At the front, you want the maneuverability, so he's got deep flange rims there, which make the front end of the bike rigid, but it also allows a little passage of air through to make it less dangerous in the cross-windy sections of the course.
The big man from the suburbs of Bern, 28 years of age, Cancellara. We call him Fabulous Cancellara because when he's riding the time trial, he is the king, that's for sure. He's only won 17 races in his career. The vast majority have been time trials, but we'll see now. He's won all the big ones, the world title, the Olympic title, of course his national title.
And in fact, last year he decided, having won the Olympic Games and hadn't taken part in a very difficult Tour de France, that he wouldn't defend his title at the World Championships. But I think if he goes back this year, there shouldn't be any chance at all of him losing out.
Well, that's in Mendrisio in Italy towards the end of the year. And as we cross over some of the main motorways here, which go directly linking Bâle with Zurich. Now, Tony Martin is out on course. This is the time of Martin. He's already outside the time of Fabian Cancellara, as he's still approaching 10.5 kilometres. And he's out of the yellow jersey after just 6 miles of racing and a week in the lead.
Well, what he's got to fight for, let's not forget, Phil, he has led this race for almost a week of bike racing, but he's got to battle himself throughout this individual time trial course to see if he can remain on the podium, because there's going to be a massive sorting out, I think, in the top 5 positions. He's actually faded quite dramatically. I had said that his time trialing ability wasn't that strong. 37th time, a loss of almost 1 minute.
Oh, well, I guess which way the yellow jersey is going, but this man could still recover. He wants a podium as well. We'll take a break. When you come back, stay with us. This is going to be a great day out. Welcome back. We're on the hill where earlier we saw Kim Kirkham passing through it. Now we're seeing Andreas Kloden here. He needs a big result. He's gone through in 10th place at the first check. And let's not forget, Paul, he was second in this race last year.
Yes, what he's trying to do is climb himself up from 5th in the overall standings at the start of the day to maybe 2nd or 3rd, and that would be a great ride by him, heading up to 15 days before the start of the Tour de France. He's a very good individual time trialist. He's nodding a little bit, but he's staying seated on the saddle. That's an indication that he's still got a lot of power compared to Kim Kirkham. If you cast your mind back, Kirkham had to get out of the saddle to fight with the handlebars to keep the pace nice and high. The time check at 10.5 kilometres, Cancellara. If we were to stop the race right now, this is what the overall standings would look like. Cancellara leading Valjevic by 55 seconds, Kreuziger in 3rd at 57 seconds, and still Kloden at 1:19 in 5th. But those gaps there, Phil, between 2nd and 5th are starting to close up, and we've still got 2/3 of the race to go.
And Tony Martin just 4 seconds off a podium place, which would be a fitting result for Columbia High Road if that's the way it's going to be. Little bit of a speed wobble there. He leans right into that corner as he charges down the streets here. Cancellara is giving nothing to anybody here. Almost a minute in yellow now, and this race not yet at half distance. Now that's style for you.
Well, I can say, Phil, I hope that all the policemen here are actually out marshalling the event, because if they were out with their radars, they would probably catch this man for speeding in the streets of Bern here this afternoon.
Undoubtedly.
Because he will be at times going in excess of 60 kilometres an hour, and he looks incredible this afternoon on the bike. I don't think anything is going to slow him down once we get to the next time check at 29.9 kilometres.
So the gap at the start of the day was 4 seconds to the advantage of Tadeusz Valjevic, and now it's 55 seconds to the advantage of Fabian Cancellara. We'll look forward to the next check. Thomas Dekker is still the best man at 30 kilometres, but these big boys have yet to get there. The finish situation at 10.5 kilometres is Cancellara leads there 11:54. Tony Martin second at 12:22. Thomas Dekker third at 12:27, and Kreuziger fourth at 12:27. He's losing ground to Martin. If Martin continues this progress, he'll be in at least 3rd place on the podium at the finish.
Well, at the almost 30-kilometre time check, this is Michael Albacini, one of the riders from Team Columbia High Road, also a winner of a stage here. He's lost himself a little bit of time, but it's really for them a question of seeing whether they can stay at the top of the rankings and the big race to try and dethrone Team Saxo Bank. This is Andreas Kloden now, Phil, and he's very much in the streets of Bern.
Well, as we watch Kloden here, you probably saw the name of Christian van der Velde flash through the screen there as Albacini went through. It's worth remembering that Christian's had a tough ride this week to try and get himself some form for the Tour de France after his crash in the Giro d'Italia. He's still a long way off the pace, Paul, and he's got himself less than 2 weeks to pull himself into shape. A lot of work ahead for Christian, I think.
No, Christian, I think, has been battling to come back from that very nasty accident, but this is quite interesting out on the course, because Fabian Cancellara is actually catching and passing one of the riders who started earlier on. This is Peter Velits, himself a very good rider, but he's on his final lap, while we can see the man in red with the white cross on is on his first lap.
Yes, that's absolutely right, and it was a very brave decision by the organisation to actually organise a time trial that took in 2 laps, because there was always the risk that rides would overlap and then there'd be a pacing accusation. but you can't close down 40 kilometres of a big city, the capital of Switzerland, and expect not to get a few complaints. So they've condensed the circuit, and the result is 2 laps.
Well, they've done this on a number of occasions in international cycling. In fact, let's not forget that the Olympic Games was also done on a circuit, which had to be covered on 2 occasions. A little bit tricky now on the cobblestones. That's 2 kilometres to the finish line, but then after that there's still another 19 kilometres to go, and I had a feeling there that the man in the red jersey, Cancellara, was going to run out of road there. He's using every little centimetre of this road when he goes around these corners.
And Velic is trying to keep him in sight here. Velic is riding about a 52-minute time trial at the moment, because he started 26 minutes ahead of Cancellara. And you can see, as long as he rides off to the left and not too close, the judges will probably accept this, but I think he might have to drop further back. We'll see. As the duel goes on for the yellow jersey, and the duel goes on here from Cancellara and Velic. We'll take another break. Rejoin us here at the Tour de Suisse. It's the most epic race ever, the Tour de France, and it's only on verses beginning July 4th. Lance Armstrong, Carlos Sastre, Alberto Contador, and all of the world's greatest riders line up in the most grueling race in the world. The 2009 Tour de France, live July 4th at 9:30 Eastern Time, and only on verses. Welcome back. Well, these two are still together at the back, but separated by a start time of 26 minutes is Peter Velic from Team Milram. But the man who is cutting his way through the crowd here, and will only be hearing his own name of Fabian, go Fabu, because this man is racing to become the Swiss winner of the Tour de Suisse.
Well, I tell you, Phil, a few moments ago, looking at the finishing straight, I thought, you know what, there are not very many spectators out here at the final stage of the Tour of Switzerland, but I now know why, because they've all gone out to this very difficult part of the course to see the difference being made by Fabian Cancellara. He had the fastest time at 10.5 kilometres, 11:54, and this is a chance now to see out on the course that Oliver Zog. He's one of the riders who started earlier on, and he's coming up to the 30-kilometre time check. Not a great ride by him, but look at the time gaps. He's lost himself 2 minutes and 40 seconds in 18 miles.
He's been up to 3rd overall during the week, but he's slipping away from that now. The big battle of the time trialists, the race of truth. These boys tried so hard to get seconds on Crans-Montana yesterday. They didn't do it, so now they're going to pay the price. Velic has got to be careful here, because he's obviously using Cancellara as a tag, and the judges won't like that too much. This is Maxime Montfort coming through too, 23rd best time for him at the 30-kilometre point, and he looks good. His time not quite as fast as the men were comparing him with, which is probably unfair. This guy is an express train extraordinaire.
Well, you mentioned the referees there. That is the referee coming up alongside, and he's trying to come alongside Peter Velic just to let him know that he needs to leave that gap. And the regulation says the gap between the two riders has to be at least 20 metres. I don't think the referee's got too much to complain about, but if you listen to the crowd in the background there, Phil, I think you know who's coming up to the finishing line with a lap to go.
One to finish on the left, one to continue on the right. It's for the cheers on the right. You're hearing all the Swiss flags are waving down this home straight. This is a veritable lap of honour for Fabian Cancellara. There's no one doubting who's going to win today, both the stage and the overall, as he just goes through. His wife cheering him as well as he comes down that corridor of flags. Fabian Cancellara, who's always ridden well in this race, has never had a day quite like this.
Well, Phil, it's unbelievable, the crowd here. It's a red and white celebration for Switzerland. He's now covered 19 kilometres into the half distance here, and he's just got to do that lap of honour to try and get himself the yellow jersey at the end of it. And I think Switzerland, as you said earlier, Phil, have waited for an awful long time.
Well, Velic came in with 48.46 there. That was his finishing time, a little bit quicker than I thought. And it's a good ride for Peter Velic. He's still a very young man. He's got a twin brother, Martin, and I guess they'll be in the Tour de France this year. But for Cancellara now, he's out on his final lap, and we'll get the check at 30 kilometres very shortly. There's the face of the man in slow motion, those huge legs pumping today, but more than just a time trialist now, because he suffered yesterday at Crans-Montana. His team nursed him on the bottom of the climb. It was Andy Schleck who kept the pace going. Even when Schleck cracked, Fabian Cancellara himself grabbed hold of his saddle and pushed him back up to do a bit more work. When he finally cracked, it was brother rather Frank Schleck who took up the pacemaking, and then Cancellara himself even got off the front to snatch a small time bonus. It's amazing, but that's teamwork for you. Back with Tony Martin.
Yes, Tony Martin wearing the pink jersey as the winner at the end of today of the King of the Mountains, a classification here in the Tour of Switzerland, Phil. But what he's looking for really is to try and dethrone Roman Kreuziger from the top spot on the podium, because Kreuziger started just 2 minutes behind him, and he's looking to try and see whether he can climb onto the podium. This man, again, as we've said, is a man of the time trial for the future, and he's taking all of the risks. You see, he went straight over that traffic circle there to keep his pace as high as possible, take the shortest distance across. These guys are amazing in the agility that they have on a bicycle.
Well, as we look down on the beautiful River Arp as it goes round the corner, remember the man in charge and is loved by all the Swiss is Fabian Cancellara. He salutes the crowd here. He's out on his lap of honour now. Just how fast will he go? We'll know soon. See you in a moment. Welcome back, the race of truth as we get to the closing stages now. Cancellara's out on that final circuit. We're looking at Albacini down there. He'll be heading towards the finish now in this beautiful country. It's like it's on an isthmus as the river here goes round two sides of the city of Bern, and these riders seem to go round all sides of the city of Bern today.
Well, this is the 29.9 kilometre time check for Kim Kirken. He's faded a fraction, Phil, over the next part of this course, and he's lost himself 58 seconds on the time of Thomas Dekker, but we've still got to see the arrival here of Tony Martin and Fabian Cancellara. So not having a great individual time trial, Kim Kirken, but it's solid enough to keep him probably in the top 10 at the end of the day.
Well, Dekker may lead the race at the finishing line at the moment. He's not going to win either at the moment, but 47.41. It's all about time now. It's the riders starting at the rear of the classification who have set the best record for the week and are now trying to pick off those seconds that will see them on the podium in what is about 25 minutes' time. These beautiful back streets of the old city here of Bern as Albacini disappears underneath and heads around. Got quite a flow on it, that river, Paul. I think they've got a weir down the road.
They certainly do have a weir. In fact, the weir just over to the right-hand side of the city to divert some of the water into go through what in the old days was a great big water mill. But back with Fabian Cancellara, fastest time at 10.5 kilometres, and it doesn't look to me, Phil, like he's a man who's slowing down at all. Look at the line that he's taking through those corners. They are absolutely perfect.
Jensen Button will be proud of him in his F1 racing car. He's riding these corners perfectly, except the engine is his own heart, lungs and legs. And just look at his position there. His body is not moving, just those legs are pumping away. He's got he's probably up to 60 kilometers an hour just now. Gentle downhill, but look how he goes right, left. Always the shortest route around Bern.
That's what he's looking for, making sure that he doesn't slow down at all. We're now looking again at 29.9 kilometers. This is Vladimir Karpets.
Getting better.
Not a bad ride for him. He obviously started off conservatively and he stopped the clock in 7th best time. He's only lost himself about 40 seconds.
So Karpets goes through his 7th best time. He was 18th best time with everybody through at 10 kilometers. So I do think that Vladimir is getting a little bit quicker. Here's Tony Martin, second fastest at the first check. 27 seconds off Cancellara.
What he's looking for now is going to be the next time check on the course, and that currently is led by Thomas Dekker at 29.9 kilometers in a time of 36.19. And I have a little feeling, a sneaking feeling, that Tony Martin is going to go in faster than that. He's looking to try and beat Roman Kreuziger by 11 seconds on the time trial here this afternoon, Phil, to try and leapfrog himself up and get that podium position you talked about earlier.
Well, he's got a few of them back, but he needs to continue to gain. He's still 4 more seconds required. Has he got it on this second leg to the next time check? He looks to me as though he's kept that big gear rolling up that slight rise and settled immediately back in. He's concentrating, he's getting more and more confident as he spends his time with Team Columbia High Road, and so confident now he's got a mountaintop finish to his name in Crans-Montana yesterday.
You can just see the speed coming through the screen here of this man, Tony Martin. He's using a monstrous gear there for the specialists and aficionados. He's probably got a 55 tooth chainring on the outside there, and he'll be pedaling here with an 11 or 12 tooth sprocket at the back, and you can see just how big that plate is on the front. I think you could probably have your dinner off that.
You certainly could, not off the back one though, but I must say he's in his highest gear right now and seems to have the strength to push it here. The long empty road ahead, a little rise over the top, and then he's going to start drilling it again down the other side. He's not far away actually from that 29.9 kilometer check. Cunego may be the next one through. If not, it'll be Cloden. But I don't think Cloden's got that close to Cunego.
Well, I think Andreas Cloden is also trying to turn the tables. He's looking to try and put in a fine performance here this afternoon, because it could be any one of 4 riders, Phil, could get themselves into 2nd or 3rd position. There you can see just coming through Damiano Cunego. That's not a bad ride for this man, because as I said earlier, this is not his strong point, the individual time trial, and that's a solid ride by him.
Well, he's got 5 riders behind him, and he's come up a notch as Albacini comes home here again inside 50 minutes for him. A good solid performance for Michael Albacini as he comes home in 32nd position. Cunego's actually climbed a little bit higher up with that time check. Albacini's in. We're getting close to the big finish. As we just get a glimpse here of Roman Kreuziger, we'll update you on him in just a moment. We'll take a break. Welcome back. We're looking at the legs here of Roman Kreuziger, who's going head-to-head now with Tony Martin, knowing at the last check there's only 4 seconds between them in the overall situation, and the big prize is which one stands in 3rd place on the podium, or will it be better?
Well, he's got himself in a very solid position further up the road than the man who should stop the clock at the next 29.9 kilometre time check is Andreas Cloden. He was 10th at the first time check, but it's really not the position that's important, Phil. It's the actual time that they stop the clock, because that's what's going to define at the end of the day. I have to say, it's almost who's going to finish 2nd and 3rd in this bike race, because Fabian Cancellara is head and shoulders above everybody else.
Well, here we go. He's not. He slipped away here. There's Brian Van Borg's time. At the moment, he's looking at 6th place now as he goes down. There's Decker, who's got the best time here. And Cloden is slipping away. He's losing over. He's gone through just on half a minute.
Well, it's not too bad, because he went through the first time check in 10th position. He's climbed himself up now to 6th position. So he's obviously riding solidly over the middle part of this course. But let's not forget there's still Tony Martin to come to that point, and, of course, Fabian Cancellara. So he probably is looking at an 8th place finish at this point.
Yeah, I reckon you're right. By the time the boys behind go through, he'll sit 8th or 9th at that check. The Maillot Jaune, we haven't forgotten him, Tadej Valjevec, who's led this race for 5 days, don't forget, and has really ridden well, but he's never had the opportunity to get the seconds he needed to feel safe today. And as we're seeing now, Paul, he really appears to have needed well over a minute before this stage started.
Well, I have a feeling he may well have probably needed 2 minutes before the start of today's stage, because Fabian Cancellara beat him by almost a minute after just 6 miles or 10 kilometres of racing. That is the performance of Fabian Cancellara here this afternoon. It's very tough when you wear the yellow jersey on the final day, because more often than not the final day is just a lap of honour, but this afternoon it's going to be a defining moment of this year's Tour of Switzerland.
Well, next man to go through that check will be Tony Martin. Roman Kreuziger, I'm sorry. We're looking here now at the time trial champion, the sweeper in the race here, Fabian Cancellara. And the man behind will not see him today, but will he see the rider in front? Here's Martin. This will be a crucial time check as he now comes through. He's slowing down a little bit here. He's passed, he's dropped away from Thomas Decker, 5 seconds better. So that's still very good, and he still could go better.
He can still improve over the last part of the course. Let's not forget he's a young rider. He's still got to learn the experience of a big, tough individual time trial like this. But he is racing against Kreuziger. He's racing against Andreas Cloden and trying to get himself a podium position at the end of the day. The next rider who should come up to that time check will be Kreuziger. But Tony Martin has lost himself just around about 5 seconds on Thomas Decker at the middle time check on the course. It's all about how he finishes.
Well, these are the riders as they flash through. We're swinging back out onto the start line there. And Cancellara still responding to the crowd here, and looking from these pictures, he's not slowing down, is he? Well, it'll be interesting to see if Kreuziger can hold on there to the performance of Tony Martin. 11 seconds they were split in the overall in favour of Kreuziger before they started today's stage. And we think that Martin has got 7 of them back, but maybe slowing down. So we'll see what Kreuziger can do when he comes through. And then, of course, you know, Cancellara, for my money, must be closing in on Kreuziger.
He very well could be, and that could give the advantage to Kreuziger, because if he can use the express train that we're looking at here to measure his effort over the last part of this course, he could start to eat back into that advantage that Tony Martin had opened up at the first time check. It's all really going to be, Phil, I think, for the 2nd and 3rd position decider going to happen on that final climb into town.
Look at that, straight chopping off the corner there, right across to the grass edge. And then he'll swing across again. He's used every inch of the closed road today, Fabian Cancellara. He's probably knocked half a kilometre off the course the way he's gone round it, but the time's reflecting he really is the best. Swinging back out to Roman Kreuziger now. Let's see what he stops the clock at. This isn't the banner there. You go on over the bridge first. But he's settling in good, and he's really fighting, isn't he? There's the banner in the far distance. You can see it on the left when he crosses over that big bridge.
He is battling here this afternoon. Let's not forget that the first time this man came to prominence was when he finished second in the Tour of Romandy, and then all of a sudden he went one better and won himself the Tour of Switzerland. Well, he's won the Tour of Romandy this year, and he is battling as an individual time trialist here because he knows what he has to do. And he's looking at the time of Tony Martin. Well, Martin was second at this point, and it may well be that he's lost himself a little bit of time, 27 seconds. No. So Martin has gone over him in the overall standings at the moment, bearing in mind there's still that climb into town to finish them off.
That's absolutely right. So Kreuziger not responded here. Tony Martin is the better time trialist, and it's advantage to Martin, it seems, and Columbia High Road could have a man. Look at this, though. Right behind him, and must have him in his gun sights, is Fabian Cancellara. He's setting the record buck straight again here now, and he's about 8 or 9 minutes from the finish as he crashes through with a lead of 68 seconds.
I'm not sure if crashing was the right word. It should have been crushing, I think, when he went through that point there, Phil, because this man is absolutely scorching the course here. And listen to the crowd.
Here comes the crowd. They're a bit late because they only just told them the time check on the finishing line, so we've got the advantage. But this man, I've never seen him ride such a brilliant time trial. He's wheel perfect. Well, he's on his way. This is Andreas Kloden here. He's heading up towards the end. We'll take a quick break and rejoin us. And welcome back. Well, these boys go as fast as any cars, I think, Paul, because they really have done battle today in this final time trial of the Tour de Suisse. This is the runner-up in the race overall last year, Andreas Kloden.
He's in 5th place in the overall standings at the start of the day, but I think 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, you might as well throw those numbers up in the air, and we'll see how they drop down on the ground by the end of the stage. But yes, there's a lot of riders here, Phil, exceeding the speed limit of Bern as they come into the finishing kilometres here and dropping down here. Andreas Kloden gets into that very low tuck position to keep himself as aerodynamic, keep the pace as high as possible. Many times on these downhill sections he'll be exceeding 40 miles an hour.
You know, the time trial is incredibly exciting, but only if you watch it on television, everybody, because we can tell you all around the course what is going on. The spectators only see one cyclist. This now is the arrival of Tim Kirken coming in, and he goes into 21st slot there, concedes 78 seconds. Rounded up overall, it'll be 79.
Well, that leaves still a number of riders out on the course. Of Vladimir Karpets, Cunego, Kloden, Martin, Kreuziger, Cancellara, of course, the man we're looking at here, and Tadej Valjavec. But this is going to be a phenomenal performance. I would think one of the best performances of Fabian Cancellara over the last few years, and he certainly, I think, could not be more motivated than he is today on home ground, on training roads, and in front of his own population.
You're quite right. It's not fair, is it?
No, it's completely unfair, I think. We should stop the race right now at 7 kilometres to go and move somewhere else.
He'd still win at 7k to go, but he's going to build on this advantage, which he's built ever since he shot out the start house. Valjavec was never in it, and as you can see, our cameras are not caring too much about the maillot jaune. We are in Switzerland. We are the hosts of Swiss television, and this man is about to take the prize to Switzerland. And the last time anybody did that, it was Alex Zülle back in 2002. He wasn't a bad time trialist either.
He was a pretty good individual time trialist to Alex Zülle, and he was always hoping that one year he would have won the Tour de France. He got pretty close. He finished 2nd and he finished 3rd. But this man coming in now is Vladimir Karpets. A solid ride by the Russian former winner of this race. 7th best time for him, only losing 39 seconds.
Well, he's continued to improve. He was 9th at the Czech, and that might well be his finishing time now, 7th place, as he relaxes a little bit. 2 years ago, of course, after the time trial, he's being fated as the winner of the Tour de Suisse. That won't happen today.
No, I think this man is going to take everything home this afternoon, because Cancellara is looking at the victory and, of course, the overall victory of the Tour of Switzerland. The course there, you can see, in fact, Phil, as you mentioned earlier, Fabian Cancellara is not very far away from catching Roman Kreuziger. I would put the distance between them at around about 20 seconds. This is the man that he's chasing. This is the man who is behind him in the overall classification. And what's going to happen to him? He probably will feel the breeze of the tornado going by before we get to the finish line.
Kreuziger won the other big race here in Switzerland, the Tour of Romandy, back in May. And Cancellara, who wasn't in great form then, still fighting back from sickness, which started in the Tour of California in February. It's been a thoroughly miserable season for him. He's come to his own tour and he's turned it around. He's going to be a big man in the Tour de France time trial. What price him in the prologue at Monaco?
Oh, I would think it would be odds-on favourite for Fabian Cancellara over that around about 12 to 14 kilometre individual test, which is a very testing course in 15 days' time. And yes, Cancellara will be looking for the victory there. This is Tony Martin. He's already got the victory in the bag in the King of the Mountains classification. What he is now battling for is second or third place in the overall standings at the Tour of Switzerland. And the lonely figure now of the last man on the road, Tadej Pogačar. He's actually not doing a bad ride, Phil, but he's losing huge chunks of time, almost 3 minutes.
He's dropped nearly 3 minutes, and that could be nearer 4 by the time he comes down to the finish today. He started 4 seconds ahead of Cancellara. He could finish the day 4 minutes behind him. Damiano Cunego coming home now, and he turns in a reasonable time trial these days, and he's just going to be outside the top men as he pounds that big gear up to the finishing line. He's 9th at the moment, but he's 10th at the moment at 50 seconds off the pace.
I think that's a solid ride by Damiano Cunego, and he's got the legs there from riding the recent Giro d'Italia.
Just a reminder then, Thomas Dekker is still the best man in the finish house, followed by Marcus Bergard and Sylvain Chavanel. He stayed that way for a while. It's about to change. We'll take a break. Welcome back, and take a look at this now, because right up from behind, going at 100 miles an hour, is Fabian Cancellara, and he just went straight by Roman Kreuziger, who can't even lift the pace to hold his wheel.
Well, just to explain the rules in professional cycling, in the individual time trial, the riders normally start at 1 minute intervals, but in a big stage race like this, the last men, the men high up in the overall standings, start at 2 minute intervals. So Fabian Cancellara has passed Roman Kreuziger for 2 minutes. Currently the standing, if the race was to stop now, we'd have Tony Martin up into second place overall and Roman Kreuziger in third.
And the sad thing is that Valjevich, having gone out in yellow, is coming back with nothing. Andries Kloden comes up now in 5th place in the time trial, which is fitting his line 5th place overall in the race. So Kloden, who will be alongside Levi Leipheimer, Alberto Contador and Lance Armstrong in the Tour de France, will finish the time trial for the moment at least in 6th position.
Yep, a good ride by him, solid ride, and it all depends now on how a little bit further back Roman Kreuziger handles the final climb into Bern as to whether or not you can see Andries Kloden climbing up into 3rd place on the road. This man, though, will be the next man to finish, Tony Martin. And remember that name, Phil, because I have a feeling we'll be talking about this young man for many moons to come. And I wonder if his performances here during the Tour of Switzerland will earn him selection for the Tour de France in 15 days' time.
Well, he has a very English-sounding name. He rides for the Californian and American team, Columbia High Road, but he is very much a German, and he is only 24 years of age. It looks like he might take second place in this event. This rider bouncing over the cobblestones. I think his helmet slipped a little bit then. He's now making his way up this very slight incline, but Cancellara will know now that he is riding to victory in the Tour de Suisse. Back to Tony Martin.
Martin into the finishing straight now, looking at the clock. It's such an important clock for him because he could be climbing himself up into second place in the overall standings. Look at the time that he's got there, Phil.
Well, he's reversed the situation at the second check when he fell behind Thomas Dekker. He's got to get in there before that 47-41, but he should do that now. So he's had a very good final half of the course, and he's gone in with the best time so far, and it might be second overall in the Tour de Suisse. 47.26.
48.7 kilometres an hour. Kreuziger's fighting his way back to Fabian Cancellara here. Well, the reason for that is Kreuziger is a much better climber, but Cancellara is keeping the tempo going. Bear in mind, though, that in fact he's had 2 minutes wiped off his advantage on the road, and there you can see the judges will not like that, and they will probably intervene in a short while and remind Roman Kreuziger that the gap needs to be 20 20 metres.
Well, I'll stand corrected, but it's not just the length behind. I think it's 25 metres actually, but you've got to be left or right of the man in front of you by 3 metres, and that's what he's not doing. You must not be in the slipstream of the man, especially when you've been caught. Now he's moved out to the correct distance, and he's going to try and go through. So the judges will allow that.
Well, the judges will allow it, but I think once we get to the top of this climb, you'll see number 61 there in the red jersey, the champion of Switzerland in the individual time trial, open up the gas.
Well, Cancellara must be thinking, what on earth does he think he's doing? Doesn't he know I'm winning the Tour of Switzerland? How dare he come past me? But at the moment, Cancellara will just concentrate to ride his own race. He's no need to worry about the whereabouts anymore of Roman Kreuziger. And once over the top, if I were Kreuziger, I'd step aside or be blown away.
Well, we could be looking at a drag strip finish here because we've just gone inside the Flamme Rouge, and I think we may well get drowned out by the crowd here, Phil, once Fabian Cancellara comes into the last 300 or 400 metres.
Even the policemen are clapping in front of us here, Paul. This is an amazing atmosphere. I've never known one like it in Switzerland, but if you can't bring it on for your home countrymen, bringing this race home at last since Alex Zülle, then what can you expect? A nice little kick again. Every time he does anything, the flags wave twice as quickly here, and he's diving for the left-hand side of the road. That's a legal distance, that's allowed.
Well, the time he's looking to beat is the time of Tony Martin.
He's coming back at him. That's why he's gone over there. He's going to take him into the line. How dare he think he can beat me to the line when I've just caught him for 2 minutes? And look at the acceleration, and that crowd are going berserk. Fabian Cancellara will win the Tour de Suisse with this. He won the opening time trial. He gave the yellow jersey away. He is just claiming it back, and he's the first man to win this race for his country since Alex Zülle in 2002. And the time is going to be absolutely incredulous. 50 metres to go. He's even freewheeling. He doesn't need seconds anymore because we're talking minutes as he comes up to the line. I've never seen that before. A two-arm salute, winning a time trial.
Well, that is absolutely phenomenal. Look at the clock there, Phil. 46.01. That is a slaughtering of the field here this afternoon. More than a minute and 27 seconds faster than Tony Martin.
So the time trial has been won by Fabian Cancellara in 45.59. The only man inside 47 minutes. Tony Martin is second at 47.26. Thomas Dekker is third. And let's not forget the yellow jersey. He's got to come in, and then we will know the final situation overall. We'll see you in just a moment. Welcome back. We've still got the yellow jersey to come in, but we thought you'd like to see this. A time trial and a two-armed victory salute by Cancellara.
Phenomenal ride there by Fabian Cancellara. He knew he didn't need any more time. He knew what the time gaps were to him and everybody else in this bike race. It's now, Phil, just a question of doing the math to try and figure out who's going to be second, third and fourth, but a long way back.
No question of that. Well, Cancellara's in. Tony Martin has continued a terrific week for Team Columbia High Road, because he's finished second in the time trial and almost assuredly now second overall. Look at this. He goes in there. We won't see him in that red jersey. This has been a magic moment. From the sadness of after winning the prologue of the Amgen Tour of California, the sickness came and it looked like his season totally blocked, and now it's all over. There's Juliana, that's the baby, as he now hugs also his wife Stephanie here. The pressure is off. Tonight, dazzled by the champagne, I reckon.
I think you're quite right there, Phil. We've still got to wait, sadly, for one more rider to arrive, because still out on the course is Tadej Valjavec. A tough ride by him to try and defend this afternoon against this man, because he has completely and utterly been the dominator.
Well, time to reflect, I think, and time for a little tear or two now, because Fabian Cancellara has done it. He now replaces Alex Zülle as the latest man to win his home tour. Not many Swiss riders in modern times have won the Tour of Switzerland, but his name goes down on the list. I wonder if he's thinking about what it was like in February in California when he left the race sick, and how times change.
Well, it's been a long battle back after that sickness there, Phil. The crowd are going ballistic. They're looking to see if they can find him. It's still waiting for one more man to finish, and he's still out on the course, Phil. We're going to see huge chunks of time here lost by Tadej Valjavec, but what a great performer he's been over these last few days, keeping in the lead at the top end of the overall classification.
There's a sad sight there,
what could he do this afternoon?
I mean, he's absolutely tried his best. He's not a pure time trialist. He's riding on the climb, which is still a considerable way from the finish here for Valjavec. They've already put up the overall classification on our computer, and they're telling us that Tony Martin will finish second at 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Kreuziger will get on the podium in third place, despite being caught by Cancellara, and Andreas Kloden will probably finish fourth. And it looks as though, as this rider's name is not in the overall classification yet, of course, he could be out the top 8 riders now.
Oh, well, he certainly could, because I think, Phil, at the end of the day, he's going to lose himself pretty close to 4 minutes. And the way he's riding here, that 4 minutes could very easily be 5.
It was a win or nothing, and I'm afraid the answer is nothing today. But he's put up a good race, and he's had the best part of his career so far by leading this race for 5 days. But now he knows it's all over. He doesn't give an inkling about second, third, fourth, or even fifth now. It will win or nothing, and it's going to be nothing.
Well, that's the difficult thing about the sport of professional cycling. Whatever discipline you go into, when you come to a big stage race like this, you have to be good at every part of the sport, whether it's time trialing, sprinting, or climbing. And this man really is what I would call a pure climber. He's not too far away from the finish line now, but he's been the protector of the yellow jersey over these last 5 days. But he had to defend it in a part of the sport which certainly wasn't his forte, and that is the individual time trial.
Well, let me remind you, these are live pictures, and it seems an awful long time ago since Fabian Cancellara did cross that finishing line. 2 arms aloft. That's why he wasn't worried about seconds. At the moment, this rider's coming in with 49 minutes on the clock, and that in itself is 3 minutes better than 3 minutes slower than Fabian Cancellara, and he's probably 45-50 seconds away from the line.
Well, he's inside of 400 meters to go now, and he's got to keep going because he wants to try and defend his position. He's slipped a long way down the overall classification, but still the concentration is there. He still has to finish the Tour of Switzerland. As he looks at the clock, he will know now that his dream has been blown out of the water.
Well, he may still be higher than we think, because he's going to be about 3.5 minutes behind Cancellara on the line. When you're riding against the best time trialist in the world in his own country and down from the end of his own street, then I don't think that's too bad a gap at all. Here he comes. He gets a big applause from the crowd here in Switzerland. He's led the race for 5 days. He loses 3 minutes 50 to Fabian Cancellara and finishes in 59th position today.
Well, it's a question of working out where he's going to be in the overall classification. He may well have just done enough with that individual time trial, Phil, to keep himself up in the top 10.
I must say, Juliana's growing up, Paul, since we first saw her.
Oh, certainly, definitely. I would have to say it's been a number of years since we saw her mother there with just a little baby.
So let's have a look then at the stage result. Fabian Cancellara, without doubt, currently the finest time trialist in the world, the only man to get inside 47 minutes for the ride. He beats Tony Martin by 1 minute and 27 seconds, and Thomas Dekker in third place, Marcus Berghout, Team High Road in fourth, Sylvain Chavanel, I think that was a good ride from the quick-step Frenchman, in fifth. And looking further down, Cameron Meyer, the Australian on Garmin Slipstream, in 6th place today. Kreuziger has got 7th, and that'll give him 3rd place overall, while the top 10 have been completed by Thor Hushovd. Well, it's now time for our sprint to the finish, and Paul, that's exactly what it turned out to be in a time trial.
Very rare that you see a man sprint to the line and give a two-handed victory salute, because that was phenomenal. A great performance by Fabian Cancellara here this afternoon.
Indeed, Kreuziger having to dodge round him because his time really did count. And that's our sprint for the finish. Well, there he is. He comes out onto the stage. There are the Swiss fans, Paul. It's an atmosphere I cannot remember.
No, it's a phenomenal atmosphere here. Everybody, I think, expected this was going to be a very special day. He's going to come out on 2 occasions now, Phil, because if you listen to the crowd here, they are celebrating his stage victory. And in a little while, I think what they really want to see is the overall victory.
Yes, they're chanting Fabu, Fabu, Fabu. Fabian Cancellara just lifts the flowers in front of him here and applauds the crowd himself, I think.
I think this is a great recompense as well, Phil, for a man who we've seen so many times in races like the Tour de France, dedicating himself to the team. And here they've dedicated themselves to him in his home event. And I bet he never really dreamed that he would ever win the Tour of Switzerland, but he has.
So let's have a look at the final classification. He started the day 4 seconds behind. He finishes it 2 minutes 2 seconds. Fabian Cancellara, the winner, ahead of Tony Martin. What a promising rider he is. Roman Kreuziger, first last year, is still on the podium in third. Klotensport, Vladimir Karpitz finishing in fifth. The top six there completed by Damiano Cunego. Valjevich, in the end, finished 3:45 behind, seventh in the overall classification. Kim Kirken is coming to form for the Tour de France. He finishes ninth. Looking at some other notables here, George Hancapi is 14th. Still a little bit of work to be done by Christian van der Velde, but Ryder Hagedal himself did pretty well. And I guess as a faithful teammate, so too did Andy Schleck. Well, there's only one man missing now as Tony Martin salutes the crowd in second place, and wait for it. He's just gone off as stage winner. He's about to come back as the Swiss winner of the Tour de Suisse.
What's nice to see, though, Phil, is the two riders we're looking at there in third and second place in the overall classification are young riders with a great future ahead of them in the sport, but this is the man the crowd are waiting for.
The man through the looking glass as Fabian Cancellara now waits for the maillot jaune. He pulled it on at the end of day one. A couple of days later he lost it, but this is the one that matters, and he's taken it back in the sport of which he is the best, the time trial.
No, there's no doubt about it, Phil. This man is a great individual time trialist. He's laid the foundations of his rides around the world on his ability to ride alone, and today it was very special, and he's topped and tailed this Tour of Switzerland with a win in the prologue, a win in the final time trial, and the overall standings.
And he goes to the Tour de France now. His next win could be in the time trial in Monaco, because everybody else must be whistling the name Cancellara is the man to beat there, and he could be the first maillot jaune of the Tour de France. Well, that about wraps everything up from here in Bern in Switzerland, but be sure to tune in to Versus next Sunday as we really ramp it up for the Tour de France. Starting at 2 p.m, we will bring you some of Lance Armstrong's most memorable stages from his past tours, and then at 7 p.m, you won't want to miss our 2009 Tour de France preview show. You'll find out who the favourites are and where the race might be won. And don't forget to log on to versus.com, because there we now have loads of videos, articles and all kinds of stuff for you to check out. Many congratulations tonight to Fabian Cancellara. Alex Zula, you can now rest in peace. For Paul Sherwin, I'm Phil Liggett saying, till the next time, goodbye.